What a terrible night the disciples were having. Everything was going well until the arrival of those bad people. Now the world was upside down. The master was arrested, and they were very afraid of what could happen. Some of them may have gone to inform their friends about what was happening. Perhaps others were hiding in fear of the soldiers. Only Peter, from far away, and John, close by, followed Jesus. Some people found out that Jesus had been arrested and went to the palace of Annas and Caiaphas to watch the trial. They did not like Jesus. But how could they possibly hold a trial at night? That was not allowed. Perhaps those people had the purpose of judging and condemning Jesus before all the people who were healed and taught by him became aware of the trial. Those people would be more likely to protest such cruelty. But Jesus did not have any opportunity to have a fair trial in that court. In reality, he was already condemned before he arrived there. Isaiah chapter 53 verse 8 says, "He was arrested and sentenced and led off to die, and no one cared about his fate." After the trial, the soldiers hit Jesus. Peter observed everything from a distance. Then someone asked him, "Hey, aren't you one of Jesus' friends?" "Not in any way. I never saw him in my life," answered Peter. Later on, another person recognized him as being a friend of Jesus. Once more, Peter said, "No," and left that place. Some time later, he was asked again if he was a friend of the Nazarene. "No," said Peter for the third time. At that time, the rooster crowed. Peter remembered the words of the Master. He lifted his eyes and saw Jesus, with his hands tied, looking directly at him. The eyes of both of them met, and Peter felt terrible. He got up. Ashamed and disappointed, he ran out into the night, crying bitterly. Learning that Jesus had been condemned to death, Judas felt remorse for what he had done and ran to the temple to return the 30 silver coins. He thought that if he returned the money, maybe they would free Jesus. But that did not help. Desperate, Judas fled, running through the city gates, found a tree, and hanged himself. The sun began to dawn. Jesus had been endured and condemned to death by his people. Now they took him to Pilate, the Roman governor, so that they could get his authorization for their evil intent. Pilate did not see in Jesus any reason for his condemnation. And when he found out that he was from the region of Galilee, he sent him to Herod. Herod would solve the matter. Herod did not absolve Jesus. On the contrary, when he found out that he was called the King of the Jews, he gave him a cape, mocked him, and sent him back to Pilate. Pilate did not like the fact that Jesus was sent back to him. Now he would have to solve the matter personally. Since this man did not do anything to deserve death, I will send him to be punished, and then I will release him, said Pilate. No, shouted the crowd. Kill him and release Barabbas. Barabbas was a thief, murderer, and leader of a group of rebels of the city. The soldiers brought him before the crowd, and Pilate asked, "Which man do you want me to release, Barabbas or Jesus?" Everyone answered, "Barabbas." Pilate sent Jesus to be flogged. With that, he expected the people to calm down. Poor Jesus, he must have suffered so much. Soon his back was lashed, and the blood ran into the ground. And they did even more. They found a purple robe to put on his shoulders and a crown of thorns which they put on his head, hurting him even more. In the face of all that, Jesus remained silent. As Isaiah had written, he was treated harshly, but endured it humbly. He never said a word. Like a lamb about to be slaughtered, like a sheep about to be sheared, he never said a word. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 7. Then Jesus was taken to be crucified. Despite all the suffering he had endured, they still put a heavy cross on his shoulder to be carried to a place called Golgotha. Realizing that Jesus could not carry such weight for too long, the soldiers ordered a man called Simon to take the cross. When they arrived at Golgotha, they put Jesus on the cross, piercing his hands and feet with large nails. At the top of the cross, they placed a tablet with the inscription, "The King of the Jews." So the left and the right of Jesus were two thieves. They were also crucified and were likely surprised to see Jesus between them. What could this man have done to be there? Yes, they had broken several rules of society, and now they were suffering the punishment for their mistakes. Many began to say, "Hey, Jesus, you healed and helped so many people. Save yourself." And one of the thieves said, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us too." That was not a help request. It was a mockery. The other thief reprimanded his friend and made a sincere request to Jesus, saying, "Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus, noticing the sincerity of his heart, answered, "Certainly, you will be with me in paradise." After several hours of suffering, Jesus prayed to God and asked Him to forgive those people because they did not know what they were doing. He continued, "Father, into your hands I surrender my spirit." At that moment, Jesus died. A great sorrow came over the people who knew him. Shortly, nature also manifested its sorrow. There was a terrible earthquake. Big rocks were loosened from the mountains and rolled down the valley. Lightning illuminated the sky. Panic took over every person around the cross. Many fled to save their own lives, as it seemed that the judgment of heaven would fall on them. Only the soldiers remained at their post. One of them even said, "This man really was the Son of God." In the same way that Jesus' birth divided history into two parts, the great sacrifice of Jesus on Calvary divided the curtain of the temple from top to bottom. It also divided our lives into two moments: before and after accepting the salvation offered by Jesus. He who gave his life in our favor and in our place wants us to accept him as our friend and Savior.